What's up, guys? MKBHD here. Let's talk about that Roadster 2. So last night, as many of you probably know, if you're a tech fan at all, you've watched these before, there was a Tesla event. And this one was for the unveiling, mostly, as we all knew it, for the semi-truck. So we finally got our first look at it. You know, Elon rolled up on stage, driving one, got out of the thing. Looks like there's two versions of it. Comes in a sort of a space gray, dark version. One big, one small. 500-mile range, 0 to 60 in 5 seconds when there's no payload, or 0 to 60 in 20 seconds with an 80,000-pound payload. The thing will recharge to 400 miles in half an hour, has a center-seated driving console, autopilot, all these cool things about it. Looks really cool, but you know, I'm not a truck driver, so I'm probably never gonna actually even sit in one of those. But that was the main story of the event, and then it kind of looked like it was ending, the lights dimmed, and then they came back on and there was music and it became this sort of a one more thing. Tesla pulled a one more thing, and out of the back of one of the trailers attached to the Tesla truck, they rolled a Tesla Roadster 2.0, the new one, the one that we all knew was eventually coming but didn't know we'd ever see. You see, Tesla didn't have much of a reputation when the original Roadster came out. That was this two-door car that was essentially the body of a Lotus, but with the electrics of Tesla, the motors and the batteries, and it was a sort of a weird Frankenstein hybrid car. Not the most practical thing, not the most comfortable, but boy was that thing zippy, and from what I've heard, very fun to drive. But it doesn't supercharge the way Model S's do. It's not one of their flagship cars. They had problems, they didn't sell a lot, there was a couple hundred or a couple thousand sold, and that was it. But then there were rumors. There were rumors of maybe they'll bring that back. Maybe there will be a Roadster 2.0. There were some Elon tweets here and there, there's some Tesla hinting, but we never actually see anything until last night. So they roll that thing off the truck, and it looks, in my opinion, absolutely incredible. It looks great. It looks like a Tesla in a lot of the ways and a lot of the curves, but it has cues from others, cues from Porsche, a little bit from Aston Martin. It's got some McLaren lines to it. So it's a really aggressive, really good-looking sports car. It's pretty clear immediately that he's about to talk to us about the new Roadster, and he is. And then he gives us the specs. And I'm a spec person. I like numbers. But there's not a lot of spec sheets that can just make me kind of speechless, essentially, especially coming from someone who's driven and owned a P100D for a while, which has a silly spec sheet by itself. Spec sheet of the new Roadster. 0 to 60 miles per hour in 1.9 seconds. 1.9 seconds. 0 to 100 miles an hour in 4.2 seconds. And it'll run out a quarter mile in 8.8 or 8.9 seconds. I've seen both from their website and their presentation, but it's a sub 9 second quarter mile. It'll have a top speed of, quote, over 250 miles per hour. And this all will come from the floor mounted 200 kilowatt hour battery pack, so twice the size of the P100D. It has 3 motors, 2 for the back wheels and 1 for the front wheels, and it'll do 620 miles or 621 miles rated for a charge. So that massive battery is actually getting you not just awesome performance through the motors, but a really long range. That'll be the first electric car to do over 1,000 kilometers on a charge. So that spec sheet, just that list of things he said, just if you look at the car and you hear those numbers, it's like hypercar territory, basically. It doesn't sound street legal. It doesn't make any sense when you look at every other car that's ever been produced. It's nuts. And I know we get caught up in the numbers about, like, you know, it's just a straight line drag race. Like, eventually those other cars will catch it. Those $1 million supercars that we constantly compare these to will eventually catch it. But with this one, it doesn't look like they'll catch it nearly as fast as they could catch this car. Like, this is basically P200T in a way. Like, if Apollo is P100D, performance, 100 kilowatt hour battery, dual motors, then this Roadster is a lighter body, a 200 kilowatt hour battery pack, and triple motors, P200T. So we get to this point in the event, my jaw is just kind of on the ground where I was watching this, and obviously there's a lot of comparisons naturally. We just love comparing Tesla's numbers to these $1 million supercars. I actually looked it up. A lot of these cars on the list of the fastest production cars 0 to 60 ever are doing like 2.5 seconds, maybe 2.4, a lot of them 2.7. So for Tesla Roadster to come along and do 1.9 is disgusting. And there's actually some videos from the event. They were giving some test rides out. I'll show you guys them, but of actual launches from inside the car. The reactions, incredible. The views, incredible. I can't wait to see people doing like that GoPro reaction test where they're just sitting with the passenger and they have the GoPro up here and they do the launch from 0 to 60 to see the reaction. Can't wait for those.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh boy!
That was 81.
Honestly, I didn't think I noticed the difference between my P100D.
Oh, come on.
No, I honestly didn't think I would notice the difference.
There's a reason this one's called Plaid.
Oh my goodness.
I kind of wonder if you could track this car. Like, I've talked to friends about bringing like a Tesla to a track and actually, you know, racing a P100D against other cars. This car is electronically limited to 155 miles an hour, but you can only go that fast for so long before the battery starts heating up, and it actually limits your performance and doesn't want you to do that for very long. So even though it's an insane performer, even though this car does 0 to 60 in 2.4, you wouldn't really race it on a track for very long against like a traditional supercar. I mean, it's also a four-door sedan, so that's another reason. But still, I gotta wonder what the cooling is gonna be like in this 200 kilowatt hour battery. How long you'll be able to get this insane performance? Can you actually go 200 miles an hour for some time before it wears out? Could you actually track this car and beat a lot of the others? I wanna see what Motor Trend does with it. I don't know, I have a lot of questions, but one thing I haven't mentioned is this car's coming out in 2020. Tesla Roadster 2.0 will ship in 2020. There's gonna be a Founders Series version and a regular base model, essentially is what he said. I don't know how the numbers will differ or what the difference will be between the two, but that's what he said. It'll be a $200,000 car, which is, I mean, it's still a fraction of the price of the $1 million cars we compare it to, but the Founders Series will be $250,000 and there will only be 1,000 of them made. Now there's a reserve button on their site, and trying really hard not to press it, but you can reserve it right now to get it in 2020. But there's plenty of other questions I still have, plenty of reasons why you might not get this car. Like the fact that I've only seen the outside of it, for example. They haven't shown the trunk. Elon said tons of storage on stage, but he didn't show the front trunk or the back trunk. He also said it's a 4-seater, so there's the 2 doors in the front and you see the front 2 seats, but there's also 2 pretty small seats in the back. Kind of the way some other sports cars are 4-seaters, you probably don't want people in the back all the time. But then it's also a convertible, so the top glass goes back into the trunk. So how big could the trunk really be? I believe it will have autopilot, but that wasn't really mentioned or talked about. There's a couple of other little things, like I still have questions about this car, but then again, 2020, by then, like, this could be sick. Something I don't talk about a lot is this car, P100D Apollo, is a leased vehicle, which means I'll be giving it back, and I kind of view Teslas as a piece of tech in that way. So the fact that they offered a lease for a couple years where I could give this piece of tech back to them and they'll continue to develop other tech that I can pick up later when I give this back was kind of part of my plan. And it turns out Apollo's lease is up at the end of 2019 and the Roadster 2.0 2020. But this Roadster 2.0, man, that's something else. That's a hypercar. 0 to 60 that fast, 0 to 100 that fast, 250 miles an hour. You can't really argue with that. I think I'm done. I think that's all I had to say. Let me know what you guys think. Should I? I think it probably will.